It happened on an island like this, on a day like this. I'm not allowed to visit Utøya, where 69 young Norwegians were killed. The police have sealed off the area as their investigations continue. I've come to Norway to find out how the country is coping with its trauma. I'm heading to Nannestad near Oslo, a small town much like any other. There I visit the local school, where the new academic year is just beginning. Most of those killed on July 22nd were young people like these. How are the students managing 4 weeks on? This candle is one sign. It's been lit for Frederick, a fellow pupil who was among the dead. He was one of them. Let us remember our colleague, says the head teacher. He calls on the 700 students to join hands. They mark their loss with a minute's silence. Across Norway, many such ceremonies are unfolding. It's an important step back towards normality. This girl, Marie, says the ceremony was very moving. It was the first time she'd experienced anything like it. She says it was important to remember Frederick and the other victims, fellow Norwegians. It was good to stand in silence. Tommy says he hopes these events will bring everyone closer. He hopes they'll be nicer, friendlier to each other. The camp on Utøya was for politically active people, points out Roar. But this school is neutral, so he isn't worried here. He's not afraid of crowd situations. Marie says it's easy to say that in the country, but in the city, in Oslo, she might be scared. After all, a bomb went off there too. Lessons are scheduled to begin with mathematics. Instead, the class discusses how and why Anders Breivik killed 77 people on that terrible day. Teacher Anna-Katrin Engen says his attacks exploited one of the Norwegian people's key traits, their openness. She has traveled a lot and worked in the US and Russia. Nowhere else, she says, do you see so few police. Here you can bump into the king at the opera without extra security. She thinks they were too naive, perhaps, and that'll change, especially in Oslo. That's where I'm heading, Oslo. At first glance, it appears unusually laid back. It's almost as though nothing has happened. In the city center, I meet Magne. He experienced the bombing firsthand. Magne works at the cathedral, close to the government quarter. On July 22nd, he came to prepare the organ music for the usual Friday service. These children's drawings recall the events of that day. Magne is lucky he survived. He had arranged to meet a friend outside the government building where Breivik's bomb went off, leaving 8 dead. He tells how his friend phoned shortly before the explosion and said she would be late. So Magne stayed at the cathedral a little longer, and that saved his life. When the bomb went off, he says, the church doors blew open. At first, he thought there'd been a gas explosion at a local store, but it was worse than that. He says it's still difficult to say what the long-term effects will be on his fellow Norwegians. It's too early to tell. Oslo's government quarter remains cordoned off. Most windows are still boarded up. It's a sight that still hits Magne hard. The finance ministry is surrounded by fences and roadblocks. Magne points out a publisher's office close by. Initially, many blame the bombing on Muslim extremists because these publishers reprinted cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. Magne says when those suspicions weren't confirmed, it almost came as a relief. If you can talk of relief in such a tragedy. But at least they were spared a possible flare-up of hatred of immigrants, Al-Qaeda, Islamists and Muslims, with all the consequences Magne fears. Immigrants make up 12% of the Norwegian population. Surveys suggest that after July 22nd, most people feel more tolerant towards people from different cultural backgrounds. The most difficult part of my visit is still to come. I meet Mari Abi Vest, a survivor of the Utøya massacre.
Are you filming now?
Yes.
Her openness immediately sets me at ease. Mari Abi Vest works for the youth organization of the Norwegian Labour Party.
The election is the 12th of September, so we have to start thinking about election, at least. Yeah, it will be difficult, but we'll manage. So this is the office.
The telephone interrupts us. The police are calling. Abi Vest is providing important testimony on the massacre.
Kan jeg få en klem av deg? Ja, det er fint. Ja.
She was one of the supervisors at the youth camp on Utøya. When the killer started shooting, she jumped into the water and swam 700 meters to a nearby campsite. She panicked. In the water around her, she saw dozens of dead young people. The images are still with her, she says. At night, during the day, everywhere. She feels guilty. Maybe she could have helped the others, or helped overpower the killer. Such thoughts torment her, but she talks about them. That's her way of coming to terms with what she saw. She knows that the survivors aren't to blame. Only one person is, the killer. She hopes that Norwegians will treat each other differently after this, be more peaceful, open, honest, and more democratic. The elections will show how much democracy Norway really wants. The election campaign has been subdued. Most victims had direct links to the Labour Party, but recent events appear to have made Mari Abi Vest only more determined to win. Many Norwegians seem to feel the same way. Again and again, they tell me it's important to deal with what happened. But equally, they want to move on. As evening draws, I've returned to the cathedral. The dead have been mourned here. Now, life has returned. Oslo is staging its annual jazz festival. It seems Norwegians aren't going to let anyone break their spirit so quickly. They have shown real strength, a sense of community. I hope that will stay with them.